Jimmy.
Kelly.
True story. True or false? When we were first married and touring on the road together, we would come home, look at each other and say, I am so sorry, but I need to get away from you and go hang out with my friends.
That is true, except for either of us saying, I'm so sorry.
There's no apology.
I think it went more like, I need to get away from you.
I need to go hang out with my friends. Or sometimes it was, you need to go hang out with your friends.
That is true.
But we did. We spent a lot of time together in the early part of our marriage. We were on tour buses together, and being married it's
great.
It's great, but it's not all of the relationships that you need in life. We really believe in friendship, and from day one, that's been really important to us.
Yep, friendship, community. You need human beings. Mm-hmm. Turns out we're not meant to live on an island by ourselves, or just me and you in a tour bus either. Apparently,
right.
But I do love you, and I think you're great. You got a lot going for you. So today's episode is all about friendship. And I'm super excited about that. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes and I have had actually a really long relationship. Love these guys. Love the work they're doing. We'll be talking a little bit more about them later on in the episode. But thankful for them and thankful for you engaging with us on this episode. We think it'll be helpful for you. So stick around. Kelly, today is the day I've been waiting for a long time. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because I don't have to say really anything for the next 20 minutes.
That is not true.
Because we're talking about community and friendship, and boom! You wrote a book on it.
It's
so
not
I don't
focus.
need to do nothing, girl. I'm gonna sit here and soak up the rays of your glorious wisdom. And you just tell me what I don't know. You hate everything I'm saying right now, don't you?
I was actually about to say, this is how he talks to me all the time, is describing my glorious wisdom.
That's right.
With Ray Beeves. Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
We are talking about something that is super important to us, right. Very important to you. As well, and it kind of comes out of what we were just in 1 Timothy. So right. What were we just in 1 Timothy, and how does it connect to where we're going today?
We were in the last episode just in 1 Timothy 5 and talked about how the church, one of the functions of the church is to meet needs for people, that it is meant to be a place where we can be taken care of, that there are people who will be there for us, that we have a support system, that we have place to land and feel safe and secure and stable. And it's meant to be that for us. But we don't tend to treat church that way as Americans, by and large. That's my observation. If you do, that's amazing. My observation is we go to church and we do some church things, but we don't actually depend on the church in that way. Mm-hmm. We tend to try and curate that in our friendships outside of the church, maybe within the church, but we try to curate for ourselves a friend group or people for ourselves to depend on. And culturally, we're seeing that happen too, which I think is really interesting. So I did do a lot of research for Friendish.
This book right here, boom.
Oh my gosh.
$16.99 on Amazon. You can get it at all your local bookstores. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Guys, we have to eat, okay? If I don't sell 15 books by next week, we've got to get rid of a cat. We have 2 cats, and actually, I'm just looking for any excuse to get rid of a cat. Mm-hmm. Don't buy any books, actually, so I can get rid of both cats. Go ahead.
I did do a lot of research for the book, and it was really interesting what I found. So I'm just going to mention a couple of things. One thing that we're seeing happen is an increase in friendship covenants, types of covenants people are making with their best friends. That
like covenant, like marriage?
Yeah, that are now showing up in marriages. That there's actually a New York Times article that was written 2 years ago, I think, that they're calling them non-conjugal couples. How's that for a fun word? But this was the definition. This is their definition: mutually supportive relationships of friends or relatives that lack a sexual component. There are actual marriage ceremonies happening between best friends where they're saying, we are going to commit to each other till death do us part. Not to be like married in the full sexual way that most people are, but just to create a sense of family that we are lacking in our lives. There was another article that came out about something called Bestie Row. You may have heard of this because it's in Texas. I think in the Austin area, a bunch of...
What is Bestie Row? I just want to make up what it is.
Google it. You can find it. But it is, I think, several couples who are friends and decided to go, we would like to live next door to our friends. And so they essentially created a compound, just built houses next to each other on the same piece of land. So they can do life together and live together. But to me, all of this is screaming culturally. People are saying, I need somebody to depend on. I need a people that I can know will be there for me.
Right.
And I think maybe because of the fallout of the nuclear family, it's just kind of not intact. People are staying single longer.
Yep.
So just family is not forming as often and as early and as staying together as long. But we still have that longing for family.
Sure.
For like in the changing of life, in the ups and downs and the rhythms of life, who are my people? Who can I depend on? And we tend to look to friends for that. But the Bible would say your church is meant to be that for you. We just saw that in this past section of Scripture, that he calls us to treat each other as fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters. He calls it the household of God, that there is this familial element. You see Jesus in the Gospels when they say, hey, your mother and brother are looking for you. And he says, who are my mother? Who are my brothers? Those who do the will of God. He kind of has this moment to elevate the people of God and say, this is my true family. That is meant to be for us a sense of stability. The question is, how do we do that, right?
Yeah.
That feels really hard because it feels...
Why do you think because I'm assuming Bestie Row, those guys are not like, also attending First Baptist Houston. So my question is... I'm sure those examples are like secular, but I know you see it even in folks who are Christians going to church. Where's the disconnect there? Is it why? How can we be Christians and but so misunderstand the church as being what you're saying, the household of God, family? Is it like a failure from the pulpit? What would you point to as like, man, we're missing it as Christians?
Man, there's so many things you could say, but I think it feels really scary to bring your real need for support and people to the church and essentially to a corporate group. It's much easier and feels a lot safer to go to the individual route. I'm going to go to this particular person, try to build friendship with them, maybe learn to lean on them. Maybe I'm going to do that with 2 people or 3 people because, that it just feels safer to kind of handpick the people you want. And we do that within the church sometimes.
Sure.
Within even a local body, we tend to like lean on 1 or 2 friends. We want it to be individual. We want a person we can depend on that feels safer rather than a people we can depend on. We were meant to depend on a people. And here's why this is hard. Let me just give an example maybe from my life. When I am in real need of something, I'm meant to come to the church. Now, what that has looked like for me is I'm starting with the small group of people that I do life with, but it's like if they can't be there for me, I keep going down the list of people. There's a lot of people in my church. So it's like, hey, I'm in a season of depression and I need somebody to be praying for me like every day. Do you have space for that in your life? And if they say yes, but then they just don't show up for me, it's like, I've got to move on because I have a real need here. But that, again, it feels like rejection. It feels discouraging. But I have found a rhythm now of like, if there's a real need, I'm going to go fight to get it met. It requires me to own my need. It requires me to have a little bit of thick skin to come and ask for that to be met. And if that person can't meet that need, I'm just going down the line of like, all right, let me find somebody else. I've walked up to people in our church lobby before because I felt like I need mentorship. I need older women in my life. And there's this older woman, I didn't know her very well, but I was like, hey, kind of like just threw up my hand to go, would you please like meet with me? She's like, oh yeah, I would love to. And I texted her, she never followed up with me. And that was really discouraging, right? That feels to take our need to people and keep taking it to the church feels hard to do because of those feelings we have of rejection.
Sure.
But I think that we're meant to persist and persevere in that and keep coming to that corporate body with our needs. So after that, it's like, I'm either going to readdress that woman or I'm going to go to somebody else because I have this real need and I'm going to keep asking. And I've sometimes encouraged people, at the end of the day, if you've really done the work to try and get that support that you need from your local church and it's not happening, that's when you go to your pastors and elders and go, hello, I really need people to walk with me in this season. And so far I have fought for that and it's not happening. Can you help me find that? That's not a pastor, can you be that for me? It's, can you help me? And it is their job, I think biblically, to go, yeah, I need to care for the sheep of my flock. And who can come alongside this person who just came to me with their real need? But everything I just described is very vulnerable, very scary, not fun. Who loves to ask for help?
Oh, sorry.
You do?
No, I don't. I like being different.
So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I think that's great. So so just to clarify, you're not saying, you said we don't just need a person out there, we need a people.
That's right.
And by that you meant we need a local church, but you are also acknowledging, and that local church of people is made up of persons. So yes, to individual, like I'm leaning on person X or person Y, but that the impulse for the Christian should be, I'm coming to this flock, my local flock, for that.
I'm giving preference there, which means I take seriously where people attend church because I think this matters so much. I take seriously who's in my local church. If there are people that come to me with real needs and they're a part of my local body, that's going to take preference and precedent over someone who's locally in my city, maybe, who's a part of a different local church, who's going to come to me with a need. I'm going to kind of encourage them. You're a part of a different local body. It doesn't mean I'm not going to be your friend. It just means I really do think these living organisms of local churches are meant to be supports to each other. That means when someone moves churches, even if they're still within my local vicinity, I'm kind of encouraging them, go build community with the people you just moved to be in that body over there, because you're meant to not just, here's kind of my point, you're not meant to go to church on Sunday, check, and then like take your real needs of your life to people totally outside of that church everywhere else. Yep. I think that it's meant to happen in the same place. The people I worship with, the people who shepherd me, the people I learn from are also meant to be the people that I lean on and I depend on. Now, of course, I don't think we need to make a rule about it like, oh, well, you're not in my church.
Of course not.
We can't be friends. But that this is one of the functions of the church, and it's meant to be a safeguard for us.
You're saying we should take advantage of this more than we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We should take advantage of it, and that if we're doing that, if we are taking advantage of it, we're regularly bringing our needs to our local body, it's building in for us a real sense of people who will be there for us. Like when the bottom falls out, when in an unexpected way, the tsunami of life just crashes into you and you just don't even have the energy to maybe even do that work. That if you've been regularly doing this, those people are going to be there for you. And if you just stop showing up at the church that you've regularly been meeting other people's needs, you've been bringing your own needs, people are going to notice. And those are all the things that we want from the church. I think we just don't want to do the work of meeting others' needs and raising our hands to present our real needs within that context. Yeah. It feels scary to us. We'd rather be a little more strategic about how we do it to make sure we don't experience a lot of discouraging moments and rejection moments or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Covenant Eyes. I am so grateful for these guys and the work that they're doing. Listen, pornography is not a comfortable subject. I should know. I battled with pornography addiction for over a decade of my life, 9 to 19 18. It grabbed a hold of me and wouldn't let go. And so I know the shame that it brings and all of that. But here's the thing. As I've gotten older, I've discovered I'm not alone in this, right? Did you know that 7 out of 10 men and 1 out of 3 women in the church today are struggling with pornography addiction? It's kind of the secret sin that nobody wants to talk about. And if you're hearing this and porn is impacting your life or the life of somebody you know, I want to let you know today that there's a lot of hope for you. You can begin a life of accountability and a journey toward freedom today. We all need biblical accountability. And by walking that path, you can have peace of mind knowing that you're not alone in the fight anymore. And that's how Covenant Eyes works. It's based around accountability. So when you sign up, you'll choose an ally, and you'll receive they'll receive all of your device reports, and they'll walk with you toward a life of freedom from pornography and the life that God desires for you, which is amazing. And I want you to try this so bad that we've teamed up together, and you're going to get to try this for free for 30 days. If you'll visit covenanteyes.com and enter the promo code CLEARLY, CLEARLY, at checkout, you're going to get 30 days of free usage of Covenant Eyes. That's covenanteyes.com, promo code CLEARLY. Use that at checkout, and you're going to get access to that. Listen, I don't let shame keep you from the life God has for you. Take back your life, your marriage, your relationships. It's what God wants for you. Freedom and healing can begin today. Would this be weird, or could we do questions now?
I think it would be great.
Folks? Why not?
I find that there are many people who I think maybe even leave their church or walk away because, well, they didn't meet my need, and but maybe they didn't even know about your particular need, or maybe they get a little kind of mad at their pastors because they didn't set something up, or there wasn't a program to help them. And, the pastor cannot possibly have the bandwidth to manage, everybody's needs. Sort of my question would be, how do you encourage, I guess you just start talking about this, how do you encourage people to go, hey, if you have a need, go and pursue it?
Totally. It is very normal, like you said, for us to assume people can read our minds and know exactly what we need and then just go and get it done for us. So that's some of what is happening in American church culture and the whole church hopping thing is we go to a church. Are they meeting my needs? They're not. I'm going to go to another one and see if they'll meet my needs. But really what you're seeing, even in the book of Acts, as the church is forming, you see, where you can tell me where it is in Acts, maybe where there's a need arrives. People need to be fed. And there's this moment that the need arrives, and it creates a ministry where Acts you see, 6. Where you see the apostles go, okay, whoa, we need more people to help meet this need of feeding.
Interestingly, it's about widows.
There you go.
Yep.
About feeding widows, taking care of that. So you see a ministry form when the need arrives at the doors of the church, and it's made known, it's presented. In some ways, there's a tension that happens in that moment because usually the need arrives before the ministry is there, but it creates the occasion for the church to go, okay, we need to create a ministry for this, we need to do something about this. If no one voices that, then it's such a disservice to the church because the church doesn't have now the opportunity to create something that would help its own members, that it's actually the responsibility of the needy person to be vocal about their need. Very counterintuitive. Feels wrong. You're like, I'm in need. You should figure it out. One of the things I say to people at my own church, and one of the ways to encourage this, to get to your question, is as I hear those needs being verbalized to me, sometimes they come in ways of complaint. Man, I really am disappointed that the church this or that. I'm like, well, have you said to the pastors that that's a need that you have? No, I don't want to burden them. Like, that's their job is to know what your needs are so that they can help steward them and get them met. Or I will say to people, you know that no one gets an alert on their phone when you have a bad day.
Ooh,
it's like there's no little like ding, ding, ding.
I want a shirt that says that.
Well, I think we act like that with our friends, with our church. It's like when my life's falling apart, didn't you get an alert on your phone that said, Kelly's life fell apart today? Reach out to her and call her and encourage her. No one is getting, it's my job to alert people and say, I'm not okay today.
Yeah.
Can you please help me? Again, that's very
It's humbling.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's humbling. It's kind of anti-American. And so that would be like one of the reasons I think we see this a lot in American churches is we like to not be needy at all. So when we actually are,
That's good.
and we're in the place that needs are meant to be met, which is the church, all of a sudden we're like gun shy. We can't do it.
Yeah.
It's too scary. But I think if verbalizing your needs begets that in other people.
It does.
And so you doing that yourself by nature will encourage those around you to start doing it. You're modeling it for them. They're getting to meet your needs and seeing that it's a safe place to do that. And so when their needs come up, they can verbalize it.
Listener B, you have a question?
Jimmy, how does, when you are a pastor / leader within a church, how does friendships within the church change a little bit? What are some unique qualities of what's just like kind of across the board common ground?
Is your question like, hey,
For you? Yeah.
yeah, no, is your question like, hey, it must be complicated being a pastor at a church and then also being like totally emotionally vulnerable and sharing your needs and, you know, all that. How does that work itself out in your context? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yes, that and also, you know, does you have to reach out to different people? Like how do you have to approach who you reach out to differently?
Yeah. So I do think that pastors do need to exercise wisdom with what they're disclosing. You know, it's one of the tricky things about having a church that's set up in terms of small groups and then being a pastor in one of those small groups with sort of mixed company of your church membership and knowing what it's like as a pastor, which is a lot of the stress in your life comes from the people you're sitting with. My small group is listening right now. They're like, wait, what? What are you? There definitely does have to be some shrewdness. In our church, we're thoughtful with our pastoral leadership about the small groups that they are in. You know, that they are safe places with trusted folks who are in our local church. Mm-hmm. And I would also say there is something in pastoral leadership that I say this a lot. I know our lead pastor says this a lot. It's really good for pastors, local church pastors, to be deeply invested in community at their church, but also to have one or two guys on the outside of that church that they can go to as well, that they can bring some of the stuff that's going on in their heart, some of their frustrations, angst, stresses. So I have a couple guys outside of my church too that it's like I'm going to be very vulnerable and known within my church context. Anybody who runs with me knows I got no problem talking about whatever in my life. But I also have been really benefited from having outside voices as well. And this is kind of circling back to something we started talking about at the beginning. This is not to say you can't have deep, meaningful friendships, that sort of thing, outside of your local church. We're just saying the Bible seems to be saying the church is designed for you to have those emotional and spiritual and physical needs met and you to be meeting those needs right there in that local church family. So we're just encouraging that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there is, like you said, a balance, but and there is wisdom and discretion, but something you said that I just want to key on is that you're finding that you're still looking to people within your own local church as a pastor, that you're not totally separating yourself from your people. That I don't think that's a biblical idea. Yeah. And it's really tempting and easy in any type of leadership to just like get all your emotional needs met in this out here and then go minister to your people. But I think that produces really unhealthy things. I think you see the Apostle Paul model this, that he's ministering to churches, but he's very honest about his own issues and needs. I'm thinking of this verse that's in 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, he says, being affectionately desirous of you, we were ready to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves, because you'd become very dear to us. That gospel ministry is giving gospel truth, but it's giving yourself. That's good. That there's a sense of, I'm here fully with you. And yeah, there's wisdom you have to exercise there.
And you said it earlier, there is something really powerful, especially when those in leadership are willing to show their cards.
Yes.
I've never been in a small group setting where I've kind of disclosed some of the gross parts of my heart where it has not immediately been reciprocated by somebody else who wasn't being vulnerable.
That's right.
That always happens. So, and especially when that's coming from leadership and they're like, oh, the guys who are like doing the thing, they're okay
Right.
with like that being known.
Right.
It's like, yes, and you can be too, because
Right.
this is a hospital, guys. This is a hospital.
Right. And the church is meant to care for their pastors too. I know it's the pastor's job to shepherd them, but I know that there are people in our own local church that have a heart for the pastors, which would include you, and exercise care for us in ways that has felt like really special. Like there's a small group within our church that's assigned to pray for you and for our family. And it's just, what a gift that is. So there is meant to be mutual care, even though there's different roles in elders and members, that we're all coming together and making sure that we take care of one another as a family. There's so much happening when we verbalize a need within the local church context. There's so much benefit that happens, not only to the church holistically, but to others in your wake, in the path behind you. And I think that's what is hard for us to see or visualize when we have a real need and we're nervous to bring it to the church. But it's like there's so much good that happens. The church grows and gets healthier the more that we do that, which is why it's such a danger for us to just show up on Sunday, check a box, but take all our needs, deal with them ourselves, or bring them to these other outside places everywhere. The church does suffer when that happens. Yeah. There's actually health when needs are brought to the church, even though that's there's tension in that.
Yeah.
We don't like tension.
We don't.
But it's good. And so I think that, again, this whole season a little bit, we're trying to just focus on what is the church and how do we live within it? How do we thrive within it? How do we help it grow? And ironically, bringing your needs is, I think, one of the things that helps it grow.
It really does.
So
it really does.
You need all just confidence in Christ to do that. So we lean on him, we show up, bring our real needs, and we're persistent with them. And when we do that, we'll see some beautiful things happen over time. So we're so glad you joined us on today's episode. There are so much more to explore in this realm of community and friendship. It is really important part of our lives and really essential in the life of the church. I mean, that's really what the church is, right? Is a community of friendships. What is happening right now?
I hear what you're saying, but I feel sad about it, to be honest with you, Kelly, because just being totally honest, when I hear you say that, I go, it is important. Friendship is important. I just don't know. I need to know more. I want to learn. If only there was someone in the universe who's put pen to paper and written something about what is that? Oh, there is someone who's written something about friendship? Oh, there's a book about friendship called Friendish, and the writer of the book, I'm married to her, and it's got 300 pages, and it's amazing, and it's thank you, Lord.
Wow.
All problems
It's an
solved.
interesting journey.
Friendship. Wait, that's not what it's called.
Wow, are you introducing my book incorrectly?
Friendish by Kelly Needham.
Oh my God.
By Thomas Nelson Publishing.
They don't need to know
friend?
all the details.
Let me read you an excerpt.
No, this is too long.
It's our pride. That's a line from the book.
Point is, if you want to dig deeper into this whole topic of friendship and how to practice it and how the gospel informs the practice of friendship, then that's what this book is about. That's why I wrote it. And you read every word, babe.
I did.
You were my first editor on this book, so team effort. Go team.
Team. See you guys next time. See you guys.
See you next time.
See you guys next time. Words are hard. Bye.